Do you think we're on? We're just going to do a bit of a test. Do we think we're on? Okay. Okay, everyone, welcome. Whether you're joining us on the live stream tonight or watching the replay. My name, for those of you who don't know, is Stefan Tessie, and I'm in Perth, Western Australia. I've been vegan for 6 years now, and therefore I was not vegan for the first 30 years of my life, where not only did I consume animal products, meat, egg, and dairy, I also viewed animals as products, resources, and commodities, because that's the way that I was raised, and that's the way that most people are raised. Not only have I, as I mentioned, been vegan for 6 years, I've been a passionate animal rights activist for the last 5 years. The turning point for me from not only living vegan, but to becoming a voice for the animals and being an activist came at a specific moment. I was vegan for about a year at that stage, and I was invited by some of my vegan friends to visit a vigil, a pig slaughterhouse. The particular site I visited is called Linley Valley, and it's located 1 hour outside of Perth. And I didn't really know what to expect. But what I saw when I went to this facility was trucks coming into this slaughterhouse. And I'd never really thought about this before, all of those years that I'd been eating pigs, particularly, but any animal products, was the experience of the animals. And when I saw these pigs rock up to this slaughterhouse, I looked in their eyes and I saw their squishy noses, and I knew what they had endured up until that point. They had been in cages, they had been tortured, mutilated, and spent their whole existence in a horrible existence. And what was to come was slaughter. And outside this particular facility was the banner that said, Linley Valley Pork, taste the love. And this was an irony, a horrible irony that I was very frustrated, very upset about, where this facility was not only putting these innocent baby animals in a gas chamber, but hanging them upside down, cutting their throats and letting them bleed out, while also having a banner out the front saying, taste the love. And it was that moment, that day, that I felt broken. I was very sad, I was upset, and that was the point where I decided that I can't just be vegan, I need to be a voice for the animals, and I need to be an activist. I need to speak up for these animals, because this is happening every day, every second, every city, all around the world. And animals need more voices, they need more help, they need to be free from these conditions. The things that made me go vegan was two main things. I was introduced to a documentary by my friends called Dominion. This documentary was filmed and produced by Christelle Force, an amazing activist in Melbourne, Victoria. Him and his team created Dominion, and this documentary opened my eyes to something that made me feel sick and disgusting and changed my life forever. I, up until that point, thought that surely Australia has good standards, surely they make good meat with high welfare, and even if that matters to begin with, but it shattered my reality understanding of just how bad animals were treated in Australia, a country that I thought would have been good. The second video that brought my attention was, again, because I was starting to investigate veganism and animal rights, I saw this video pop up on my screen saying, the most important speech you will ever hear by a man named Gary Yourofsky. I'd never heard of this individual before, but he popped up on my screen, and I thought, with a title like the most important speech you'll ever hear, I've got to give this a listen. And it's an hour. It's an hour speech, particularly the first 30 to 35 minutes is just straight after fact delivering truth, raw emotion from someone who speaking from the heart, and I could just feel his passion. And it's a pretty surreal reality to watch this person who was just an unknown person to me at that time. And it's a surreal feeling to get the opportunity to speak to this incredible man who has influenced so many vegans to become passionate about what they do. And I'm honored and humbled to interview Gary Yourofsky tonight. So I'd love to welcome Gary to this interview. Welcome, Gary.
Stefan? What's up, Stefan? How you doing, man?
I'm so good, and I just want to show admiration and appreciation for all you've done for animal rights for your whole life, for your career, and you've just been such a positive influence on me. And the more vegans I interact with, the more people who have just said that you were just an incredible influence on them. So thank you. I know that you're doing it for the right reasons, but thank you for all that you've done for the animals.
I appreciate it. And I never did it for the adoration. It was always weird to me. And I didn't even realize so many people were listening. I knew the students in the classroom were listening. Honestly, though, I didn't know other people outside the classroom were listening. And listen, it's better to be loved than hated. I do appreciate all the adoration, but my clients are cows and pigs and chickens and turkeys and fish and goats and sheep and all the other critters on this planet. I was just a mouthpiece for them. I was
Yeah.
speaking for them like I would want to be spoken for if I were in their position.
And that is why I love what you've done and have done for so long. And I feel very called to this passion and purpose as well. And I'm just so glad to have learned from someone that I respect so much, and how you've been such a great influence on myself. And there's so many vegans who I've connected with in my local communities and around Australia as well, who have just so grateful for all that you've done. And again, I know that you don't do it for that reason, but you've definitely inspired a lot of people, which is helping us go towards a more kind, loving, respectful, hopefully vegan world shortly. It would be great.
I think it's awesome too that so many people received inspiration from what I was doing and wanted to mimic the passion, mimic the rawness, because that's what I was just letting out. And it's all about being honest, being truthful, being passionate. I always heard from the professors in every single class, we never met anybody so willing and open and
Yeah.
honest. About what they believe in and just letting it all out. And that's what we have to do for the animals because we can't exchange a walk-on part in the war for a lead role in a cage. It sounds better when David Gilmour of Pink Floyd sings it, but that is a line I heard yesterday. I was listening to Pink Floyd, and it's so true. I'll say it again for the vegans out there. Speak up, speak out. Don't exchange a walk-on part in the war for a lead role in a cage.
Thank you for those words, Gary. I completely agree. And I feel called every day to speak about the animals, just like you have for such a long time of your life. So I share your passion. And I think, yeah, as I mentioned, I felt your heart in your speech that I saw. And obviously, I've seen a lot of other things pop up since then about, you being on various TV interviews and other speeches that have gone in other colleges rather than just that one famous speech. But you've done so many incredible speeches. And yeah, you've definitely inspired myself. And I felt your heart. I felt where your love is. And yeah, you're an incredible man. So thank you.
Thank you
Uh,
very much. And by the way, out of the 2,660 speeches, so I grew up in an era where we weren't documenting everything. There's only about 10 or 15 of those lectures on
yeah.
video. So it's a rarity. In fact, the one from Georgia Tech really wasn't even planned. There was a student that filmed it that day. Thank goodness Nathan Black showed up with his iPhone and filmed it that day. It turned out to be a really important speech for the animals. But I grew up before the internet, just so everybody knows. I'm ancient. I grew up without cell phones too. I kind of wish everything was documented now, especially the Q&A sessions. Boy, those were priceless. Those were that's where I really shined in a confrontation setting. Even though the majority of my lectures weren't confrontational, still when I was getting questions left and right, that student, this student, what about this? What about that? What about protein? What about God? Well, animals don't feel pain. Prove this to me. I mean, I always had 5 or 10 answers ready to go, and I was never going to let the animals down. I always knew that I had an answer. And let me throw this out there too for the vegans. Don't ever think a meat, dairy, or egg eater ever has a point. They never do. If they
Yeah.
did, then animals would deserve to be exploited, deserve to have their babies stolen from them, deserve to be raped, deserve to have their heads chopped off. So my goal every time, as soon as somebody was speaking, was to figure out the lie, figure out the misinformation, figure out the disinformation, and then pounce and attack.
And that's the crazy thing, as you mentioned. I mean, I've only been doing street outreach for 4 or 5 years now, and you've been doing 2,600 lectures. So you've done this so many times, but obviously this would have been the first time that they had been hearing these words, and you still have to approach it like it's the first time, even though it's your 2000th time. And that would have been an interesting position to be in yourself.
Yeah, it was kind of a performance I was doing after a few hundred lectures, but I was happy to get up there and perform and let it out. And Probably to entertain myself more than the crowd. I started freestyling. I started with I would throw in a paragraph here, a paragraph there, especially after the Slaughterhouse video.
Yeah.
As the years went on, in fact, the Georgia Tech speech, the most famous speech, the most important one, what I said after that, after the Slaughterhouse video, that was a freestyle. When I said, right now on American highways, there are no less than
Mm.
5,000 concentration camp trucks. In these trucks are terrified beings. I just would let it pour out of me. And it really, you know what, the freestyles really grabbed the crowd even more because they already appreciated the openness and the honesty. But then when they got the raw freestyle, I was just letting my heart out. It
Yeah.
really worked wonders. So yeah, let it out sometimes. People tell me a lot, oh, Gary, I get nervous and I don't know what to say. Yes, you do know what to say. Put yourself in their
Yeah.
position. That's why you became vegan. Say it. Don't be afraid to say what you feel. Something I've always heard from a lot of vegans too over the years, Stefan, was, Gary, man, you say everything that I want to say. Well, hey, don't make me just say it. Say it. You can say the
Yeah.
things. You can be raw. You can say Holocaust. You can make slavery analogies. You can call people Nazis. You can do what you need to do and say what you need to say to make somebody understand the message that animal exploitation is evil.
Yeah. And you're dead right. I use that same approach as well. I think we use too many euphemisms, too many watered down things, which again is disrespectful not only to the animals. Obviously, it's incredibly disrespectful to the animals because if we were to use any less language, if we were in their position, it would be incredibly disrespectful. And also, it's disrespectful to the human you're speaking to because you're not being honest with them. You're lying to them, and we've already been lied to too much already by consuming these products, or viewing these animals as products. That's enough of a lie. We've lied too much already. So anything less than the truth is a disservice to the animals and obviously the human who deserves to be spoken to with honesty, with directness, and with accountability.
It's not only disrespectful, let me add to that, it's
Yep.
ineffective. Listen
Yep.
to me, it is ineffective. This is something else that I've noticed over the years, that people want to play political games. People seem to think that there's a gimmick or a trick to make somebody understand. So they fall back on, well, I'll be overly kind, or I'll be less radical than I need to be. I'll say plant-based when I really mean vegan. I'll say I'm an
Mm.
animal advocate instead of I'm an animal liberationist. I'm telling you, that shit doesn't work. Look
Yep.
at what I did. Look at the hundreds of thousands of people that I reached over the years, possibly millions of people, and I was as raw as they came. Don't play games. It never depends on what the messenger says. It always depends on if the listener is ready for the message, and they're not going to be more ready for the message because you're overly kind or you sugarcoat it. In fact, our enemies think that the Humane Society of the United States, HSUS, or whatever they're calling themselves these days, they think that they're the same as the Animal Liberation Front. Because all
Mm.
they see is, oh, you guys care about animals. Oh, you guys are animal people. They put us in the same category. So don't sit there and try to say I'm an animal advocate or this. I just want you to be plant-based. Say what needs to be said. And I got proof. I have empirical evidence that the harsh truth works. Hold
Yep.
people accountable. They actually, you know what, one of the most common refrains that I heard after I converted students was, thanks for giving me the kick in the ass that I needed. Or, man, no one ever called me out before. You're right. I was
Yep.
being selfish. I was being egotistical. I was being a fool, towards the animals. I was acting like a Nazi would. So
Yep.
call people out, hold them accountable. It works. I'm telling you, it works. Don't try to play games and don't use gimmicks.
Of course it does, and that's, as I mentioned, that's what attracted me to your speech. Your famous speech was that raw, no bullshit, no leniency. And I was asking myself, I was pausing after all of your questions and all of your statements, and I was asking myself, wow, can I dispute? Can I refute anything this man is saying? He's being quote unquote harsh, but he's being fair and he's speaking the truth and he's speaking up for the animals, which is what I just admired, was not watering it down, just being direct. And I love hearing direct. So thank you for explaining that and why it's so important to be that way.
You have to be that way. There's no other way to be. And listen, the truth is harsh. So
Yeah.
I don't know how else you're going to explain such a
Yeah.
harsh truth where animals are being electro-ejaculated, the male ones, every single second of every day to obtain their sperm. And every second of every day, they're taking that sperm and artificially impregnating female animals to rape them and impregnate them. Every second of every day, we're stealing their babies from them. Every second of every day, we're mutilating them, cutting their horns off, cutting their teeth off, ripping their testicles out, cutting their tails off, giving them ovariectomies. This was actually something that I used to talk about that I forgot happened, and it kind of crossed my path yesterday. Somebody showed me an old video of mine where I was showing a cow having an ovariectomy. I don't know if people
Mm.
realize this, but a lot of times when animals are shipped from one country to another, the video that I had back in the day was coming from a cow shipped from Mexico to America. They don't want them to reproduce. So at the border, they put them in a stall. They took a knife, sliced her backside, and ripped her ovaries out. How are you going to do this? Explain this in a nice way, by the way. It's an ovariectomy without anesthetic. It's evil and it's vile. So you have to be harsh when you're talking about the harshest and most evil things that are happening constantly on this planet. Don't hold back. Don't sugarcoat. Sugarcoating doesn't work. Sugarcoating only makes you a politician. And I've never met one person who really loves a politician. Everybody admits politicians are
Yeah.
liars. Everybody does. And then all of a sudden, as soon as you get some power, as soon as you have a chance to talk to people, everybody wants to act like one. Why? The professors also told me over the years, we never met a real activist. That's why they brought me in. These weren't vegan professors, by the way, bringing me in.
Mm.
Dare I say, thank goodness for the meat, dairy, and egg eating professors in America. They're the ones who were bringing me in. The vegan professors thought that it was going to be biased, so they were afraid to bring me in. But those meat, dairy, and egg eating professors said, man, we have never met a real activist before who put everything
Mm.
on the line. We only read about activists, we only hear about them, we only go back in time and hear about them. So I'm telling you, being genuine, being
Mm.
real, it works. It works. It works way better than being a politician.
And just something you mentioned then, which surprises me. I mean, I've been vegan for 6 years. Obviously, you're a few years ahead of me, which is great. But it still surprises me as to how evil humanity is to these animals and what a poor reflection of that is. Just some of the practices you explained there. I'm surprised every day when I hear about just how bad some of these practices are, and it's just mind blowing, and it's so disturbing when you hear about just how bad we are and how hidden that is from society and general knowledge. And it's just crazy that I got through the first 30 years of my life just thinking that steak was a cow and it somehow became that. But you don't realize all of this cascade of things that happen to these poor, innocent baby animals, and just being complicit and being a part of that violent, oppressive system. When I realized that I was responsible for this for the first 30 years of my life, broke my heart. And even today, I'm still learning of practices that are just sickening, disgusting, and just a poor reflection on our species.
If people only knew what really happened behind the scenes. And it's
Mm.
amazing that sometimes we've been accused of exaggerating,
Mm.
aggrandizing what's going on. I used to tell people, are you kidding me? Stephen King and Wes Craven couldn't get together and write a horror movie equivalent to what the meat,
Mm.
dairy, and egg industries are doing, equivalent to what the vivisection industry is taking
Mm.
part in. I cannot believe the evil things that humans have come up with. I mean, they have a guillotine head cutting machine in chicken slaughterhouses. I mean, monkey head transplant experiments at Case Western
Mm.
Reserve in Ohio. I mean, who comes up with these things? How burn
Mm.
research? Burn research is lighting animals on fire, dipping them in kerosene while they're fully conscious and lighting them on fire. How in the world, or why in the world would I need to exaggerate the most
Mm.
psychotic and evil things that the human mind could fathom and come up with in order to torture and inflict endless pain on these animals? It's absolutely sickening what goes on, and it never ends. This is why militants, this is why vegans become so militant about this. This is why I've been so militant at times.
Mm,
I don't want to be a two-legged devil to these animals. No vegan does. But this is how some animals view us. In fact, this is how the animal kingdom
mm.
views us. I want to quote, what is it, William
Inge?
Ralph Inge? Yeah, if animals ever formed an organized religion, the devil would be depicted in human form. And that is
Mm,
heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking because I think animals would have liked to have known man, but all they ever know is our inhumanity instead. And they're caught up in this tornado of hell. When is it going to end? And you bring up 6 years vegan. Man, I'm 29 years vegan. I
mm,
thought we'd be a lot further in this cause,
yeah,
but I'm in Seville, Spain right now. There are still horses hooked up to carriages 13, 14, 15 hours a day with
mm,
bits in their mouth, this evil metal device that controls every movement by hurting them inside their mouth, the most sensitive part of the body. Lugging around fat, stupid, lazy human beings all day who think it's romantic or cute to have
mm,
a horse hooked up to a machine to pull you around all day. I thought dog racing, horse racing, product testing would be abolished by now. These are things that, I mean, I once debated, I actually twice debated Ted Nugent, the world's most outspoken hunter, animal killer. I even got Ted Nugent back in the 90s on one of the radio stations we were debating on to say, I think it's absurd that we put chemicals in the eyes of bunny rabbits. I mean, even Ted Nugent thinks that product testing is insane and it still goes on. So this is how big and massive this Holocaust is. And you also brought up how it's hidden. Think about who's lying to us. Everybody.
mm,
Religion lies to us and pushes this narrative that animals don't count, animals don't matter. Our parents, mom and dad, tell us that animals don't count, animals are food, animals are clothing. Now, they've been lied to by their parents, but still, our parents are to blame as well. Media, TV, that's all we get from from TV is that happy animals and animals want to be killed in slaughterhouses. McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's, they use cartoon caricatures to make us
mm.
believe that animals want to be cut up into pieces. Our government pushes it. It's coming from every angle. And this is why most of the time when vegans are confronting non-vegans, this is why it's a difficult task, because everything people have ever been told was a lie about animals, and we have to deprogram them and unbrainwash them. Sometimes in 2, 3 minutes on the streets at the Anonymous for the Voiceless, Cube of Truth, 60, 70 minutes during my lectures. It's amazing that we're
Mm,
successful. AV is extremely successful. You saw what my speeches did. I was converting
yeah.
50% of the crowd most of the time. And you want to talk about a tough social justice movement? In 60 minutes, I have to convince people to be nice to turkeys, to
Mm,
be kind to chickens, to view cows and pigs as equals, and I was doing it. So it can be done. As tough as this task is, if you're harsh, if you're truthful and honest, and you hold people accountable, it can be done. But it can't be done doing it that political, nonsensical way. It really can't.
yeah.
You're making the job twice as hard, 10 times as hard, 20 times as hard when you sugarcoat it. So always be honest and harsh and truthful.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. That's amazing. And I think what you were saying there, the word that came to me, I think it's ironic that we call ourselves as a species humankind. And I just think that that's such a, I mean, if we are to be humankind, I just think that we're far from it. And one of the interviews that I just saw you do, for those who don't know, Gary's been generous with his time, teeing up lots of interviews over the last month or so, particularly. And one of the things that I saw you say in one of the interviews was that you've lost hope. And I can understand how you've come to that because you've been doing this for a long time. And I want to know where you stand with that. You know, do you think we can make tracks? Because I know that you have. Has that changed since you've spent time doing AV on the streets, or now that we have more social media influence? Before you were a one-man show, just doing. Not that it wasn't effective, of course it was incredibly, but now that we have the power of social media and particularly the new AV flowchart, how are you finding? Has your hope shifted at all?
It kind of depends on which day you ask me, Stefan, I'll be
Yeah.
honest. But I have
Yeah.
hope lately, the last few months. First of all, I'm now a two-person army. I got Carmen Conesa by my side, my social media manager, love of my life, my vegan goddess. We're gonna kick some ass online. I just spent 40 days with Anonymous for the Voiceless in Cologne and Amsterdam. Now, back in the day, I spoke so much. I mean, I was doing it for the animals, of course, but I always made sure that I was out there in front, not because I was being egotistical, because I didn't like the way anybody else was explaining this topic and this issue. Well, now that I saw AV and Paul
Mm.
Bashir and Oliver and Lucy and all the great activists on the street and Thomas, man, these people, if a news crew came up to me when I was in Cologne and demanded to interview me, I'd say, you know what? You don't need to talk to Gary Yourofsky anymore. You can
Mm.
grab 80% of these activists who can tell you what I'm going to tell you, that this is evil, that animal exploitation is wrong, that humankind is human unkind, that humans have never achieved morality. So I am really hopeful again. Now, that interview that everybody saw where I said I lost hope, that was back in June. That was the first
Mm.
interview I had given in 11 years. It was 4 days after I arrived in Frankfurt, Germany, and I'm honest at the time. I always am. So that's how I felt at that moment. That no, there
Yeah.
was no hope, and that's part of the reason that I was so broken for so long, and I was retired for 11 years. But I have regained some hope. I do think that we can make headway with Anonymous for the Voiceless, with all the great podcast people. I love what you're saying, Stefan, too. I was talking to some great people over the last 40
Mm.
days doing podcasts. I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe we can make a dent. Maybe we can make a difference. Maybe we can finally ban horse carriages and we can get rid of product testing and we can make more people become vegan and live that vegan ethic. So today I do think it's possible. This is how I feel right now. It's a hard battle. Don't get me wrong. We're fighting
Yeah.
a massive amount of cruelty. We're fighting that tornado of hell, man. That tornado of fire, that firestorm, that and we just have to douse it somehow. We have to keep on keeping on. We have to preach, we have to teach, we have to educate, get involved, by the way, in education based activism. That's where it's at. Think about before you became vegan. I remember before
Mm.
I became vegan, I was unaware. I didn't know. I
Mm.
was brainwashed. Somebody finally taught me, unbrainwashed me, did the same to you. So it can be done. Every time you feel hopeless, and listen, I have to learn this too. I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. But when I feel hopeless, I have to start looking around and say, man, well, look at all the people you converted, Gary. Look at those
Mm.
classrooms that started off with their arms crossed. So, every single
Mm.
class started out like this, arms crossed. 15 minutes in, though, after I dropped the slaughterhouse video, all of a sudden arms are
Mm.
uncrossed, hand is on top of their head, scratching their head. It's like a submissive position. They're open to me. 20 minutes in, both arms are down on their desk now. And then I drop some sarcastic humor. So for the people out there too, it doesn't always have to be brutally harsh. It can
Mm.
be sarcastically harsh. George Carlin, one of my favorite philosophers of all time, the great comedian, he dropped a lot of sarcastic truth in his humor. So I would drop that sarcastic humor. Like, you guys think that vegans are weird because we eat tofu, but you guys eat flesh and blood and veins and muscles and tendons and cow secretions and things that come out of a hen's ass. You guys have a bird ass fetish.
Yeah.
How come everything has to come out of a bird's ass, eggs, or you have to shove something into a turkey's ass? And I get the crowd laughing, but there's truth in that,
Mm.
right? They started to
Yeah.
see how absurd it is that they think what they eat is normal, that they think that animals don't think and don't feel. I mean, we can all agree,
Mm.
everyone's, they all have eyes. We all use our eyes to see. All of a sudden, the animals don't use their eyes to see. We use our ears to hear. All of a sudden, the animals don't use theirs. And then I would say during the speech, but all of a sudden, they have brains, and you don't think they use their
Mm.
brains to think and feel? You don't think they have a conscience? You don't think they're conscious? Like, stop it. What do you guys stop viewing a living sentient being as a machine? So you can break down these barriers. It's a tough battle, but we
Mm.
can do it. We have to do it. Put it this way, we have to do it. And even if it doesn't happen in our lifetime, we are certainly laying the tracks for this to happen at some point in the future.
Yeah. No, I obviously agree completely, and I'm as committed as I can be. Gary, something you were talking about, some of the activists that you met, obviously doing 1 day a month AV outreach. I would love to, hopefully there's a lot of vegans listening to this interview, and I hope there's also a lot of non-vegans listening to this interview. For those of, do you mind explaining to me what, I obviously know because I do it, but do you mind explaining what AV is in terms of how they set up, how it draws in the crowd, what they do? And if you don't mind, I'd love to actually do a role play. So if you can just set the scene of an AV, I'll be a non-vegan for 10 years, sorry, for 10 minutes. And I'd love for you to outreach me just to show people, hopefully motivate vegans to do AV because they're obviously around in a lot of cities around the world. Yeah, so hopefully get more active vegans, show effective communication, and also hopefully show a non-vegan what an outreach might look like and see if they can play along.
First of all, so what got me out of my retirement, out of my coffin in Michigan, I was considering going to Frankfurt to visit somebody I converted near Rosenfeld. He has 7 vegan restaurants. And then I get a call from Paul Bashir, good friend of mine, but I haven't talked to him in several years because I was out of the loop. I was retired. And I asked him, so what do you got going on? And he says, well, I'm going to Cologne to do this 30 days of Cube of Truth. I said, get the fuck out of here. You're going to be in Cologne? I'm thinking of going to Frankfurt. So it was a sign from the universe for me to come on out there. And I had not seen anything like this in 29 years. Now, I got off the streets. I'm so ancient. I had not done anything on the streets since 2000. So 25 years off the streets. Basically, I took my street protest to the classroom. I needed more than 2, 3 minutes on the streets. I needed 60. You saw what I did with 60. Now, what Paul Bashir did with Anonymous for the Voiceless, they condensed my 60-minute speech down to 2 or 3 minutes of outreach. So they came up with some key points. So what they do is they would set up 4, maybe 8 people standing in a box, and they would be holding TV screens and showing the horrible things that we do to animals, from slaughterhouses to feedlots to vivisection laboratories, you name it. And they're showing this, and they're all wearing this Guy Fawkes mask. If people remember the movie V for Vendetta, one of the best movies ever, activists should always watch this, man. It inspired me too to get out there and speak up. So they'd stand there, they'd pick a public spot in some major city, a square, and they would just show these images. So when people are walking by, they can't help but look over to the screen and see what's going on. And then the more brilliant part is Paul would train 20, 30, 40, 50, however many people show up. And by the way, show up, make it 100 people. Who knows? Make those cubes even bigger, more TV sets. They always have more. So they would have these people approach the public who would stop and watch, and they would question them. So it usually started with, do you think animals deserve to be exploited? Most
So Gary,
people
as
would
an
say,
exercise, pretend I'm a member of the public. So you see me stopping and I'm looking at this screen. So I'm looking at this screen and I'm seeing a pig in a cage or a gas chamber, or, you know, baby chicks going into a macerator. So you can see that I'm seeing this footage. I'm going to be not vegan for the next 10 minutes. I'd like you to, public outreach me. So I've seen this footage, and what would you ask me?
well, first I'd say, how you doing today?
I'm going well, thanks, and I'm just enjoying my walk through Amsterdam.
Okay, I saw you were looking over at this screen. You mind if I ask you a question real quick? Do you think
Yeah, sure thing.
animals, okay, do you think animals deserve to be exploited by human beings?
Well, I think it depends on the reason why we're exploiting them.
Well, why would there be a good reason to exploit them? If you were in their position, would you think there'd be a good reason to be exploited?
Well, I think we're humans and we're superior. So I think that animals are designed to be that, and that's their purpose, to be used by us because we can, and we're better than animals.
Well, that is the basis of discrimination. And that's why we're out here today, to try to destroy people's discriminatory beliefs. Because you just brought up the basis of racism, of why white people think they're more important than blacks. You just brought up the reasons for heterosexism, why straight people think they're better than gay people. So all you got to do is put yourself in the victim's position. So let me ask you another question, though. Do you think it's possible to respect animals? Do you think animals are worthy of respect? Let's start with that.
I think some animals deserve respect. Like, I love my dog and cat, but then they're pets, and then there's animals who are food animals, and that's their purpose.
Okay, I want to point out again, you realize everything you're saying is discriminatory. Why do you feel the need to make one group of beings superior to another group? Because the way I see it, without universal equality, one type of equality will always lead to another type of inequality. Why would a dog or a cat be more important than a cow or a pig?
I'm really struggling to answer this question as a vegan, but I'm going to try my best. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of answers because obviously I'm vegan, but
But
well,
I
I
can
don't know.
tell you, well, listen here, let
Yeah.
me tell you why let me just tell you why, because now you would probably be struggling. And I'd say the only reason you believe that dogs and cats are more important than cows and pigs and chickens and turkeys and fish, because you've been brainwashed to believe that. When it comes to pain, suffering, when it comes to the desire to be free and not wanting to be a slave, not wanting to be harmed, there is no difference between a dog and a cat, a cow and a pig. These are all the same creatures. In fact, you can throw humans in the mix too. And keep in mind something you said to me before when you said humans are superior. The paradigm that you're using is actually not true, because if that were the case, then every time a group of human beings claimed that they were being treated unjustly, all other human beings would respond positively. So why did it take Black Americans 400 years to convince white Americans not to enslave them? So it's not fair for you to say humans are superior, because humans don't even understand other forms of human oppression. But what is universal is the discriminatory belief system that you're using, and you're being oppressive, you're being exploitative. Why would you choose to be harmful? Why would you rule with an iron fist instead of a loving hand? So now, with all this being said, I'd like to have you put yourself in the victim's position. What if that slaughterhouse was full of human beings? What if that slaughterhouse was full of people from Australia, where you're from? And all of a sudden, people from America said, "Oh, we don't care about Australians. We're just going to hang them up and slice off their heads, cut them up into pieces, or we're going to torture them in experiments." How would you feel as an Australian if Americans said that? Because however you're going to feel, and I know you're not going to feel well about it, that's how
Mm.
cows feel when you say cows are nothing but steaks, sandwiches, and shoes. Why would you subject cows to that type of behavior? Are you a demon? Do you want to be a two-legged devil? Or do you want to be a kind human being and extend some compassion and some empathy?
Yep, I don't have a good answer for that, Gary.
Well, that's good. And so now
Yeah.
I want you to, so now I want to ask you something. Do you know what the definition of veganism is?
Isn't it just when you just don't eat meat, egg, and dairy?
Well, that's part of it, but no, it's about not viewing animals as exploitative machines, not viewing animals as beings to be commodified, to be turned into property, to be turned into sandwiches and shoes. So, yeah, it's about not eating meat, cheese, milk, and eggs, but it's about not wearing animal skin. It's about not thinking animals were here to be used for entertainment in the circus, in the rodeo, in bullfights, horse carriages. It's about not viewing animals as research subjects in horrible experiments. So it's about not wanting and not viewing animals as being exploitative devices. So, as a vegan, if you decide to make this decision, which is what we're asking you to do today, now I've been vegan for 29 years, so I don't want you to think it's not possible and not possible to be a long term vegan. Look at me. We'll flex right now for you, too. This is a 55-year-old man, been vegan for 29 years. So don't tell me that you can't be healthy as a vegan, even though this is not about health and this is not about the environment. Okay, you can enjoy your health benefits and the environment would benefit, but this is about you standing in line with your ethics, okay? I know deep down you think I'm a good person, I'm a kind person, I'm a caring person, but you're not walking the talk. You're not living
Mm.
that principle if you're going to view animals as commodities. So, how about today is the day that you become vegan? How about today is the day that no animals have to be exploited anymore on your behalf? Is this something you want to do? What would prevent you from becoming vegan?
Uh, Well, I just like eating what I eat, and I think it's just going to be quite hard for me to change now because I've been doing what I've been doing for 35 years. So it's going to be really hard for me.
Well, it might be hard, but if it's hard for you, how hard do you think it is for the cows and the pigs and the chickens to endure this? How hard do you think it is for a female animal to have her baby stolen from her after birth? I want to pose another question to you, and this is not a riddle. There's a black woman, white woman, Asian woman, Latino woman. They're all pregnant. They give birth. Whose baby is it?
It'd be the baby of each mother.
Right. Cow, pig, chicken, turkey has a baby. Whose baby is it? Yours? The meat
It
industry?
should. It shouldn't be mine. It should be the mother's. It should be the pig's
So,
child, and the yeah.
so I want you to think about this, because this, after 29 years, I think the most evil thing that we do to animals is steal their babies. The slaughterhouse to me is now the fifth or sixth worst thing that happens to them if you think about it. We actually believe we're so arrogant and egotistical. We think that we're gods, that we steal and own somebody else's baby.
Hmm.
This is why I live vegan. And then the mutilations I didn't even tell you about. Okay, we cut their horns off, we cut their teeth off. You know why pigs have their teeth cut off? Because we put them in factory farms where there's 30,000, 40,000 in one building, 10,000, 20,000. They start to fight each other because they're jockeying for position. But if you cut their teeth off, now they can't damage each other's flesh. How fucking evil is that we even came up with that stuff? We cut their tails off too because they bite each other's tail. It could damage the flesh. So we cut their tails off. All this done while they're fully conscious. And not that it would make it better if they were unconscious, but this is the evil stuff that McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's and KFC won't show you on TV. How come when you watch a McDonald's commercial, they don't show you the slaughterhouse? They don't show you the animals being stolen from their mothers. How come? You think they're lying to you? They're tricking you? You've been duped, my friend. Today is the day you become enlightened. How about today is the day you no longer choose to exploit animals? Can I get a
We-
handshake on this?
You've definitely brought up some things I've never thought about before, Gary.
Okay.
Um,
And
yeah.
listen, it's going to be hard. I want you to know. Of course it is. Caring is hard. That's why people don't care. Do you know that every time I have a discussion with somebody on the street, and I'm not going to say it's you because you're actually listening to me, but every time I have a painful discussion on the street, first thing that goes through my mind is, man, I wish I didn't know. Life was so much easier when I didn't care about shit. Only cared about myself or my dog. Or Bourbon and Brandy, my Cocker Spaniels. Shadow, my first dog. Rex, Doyle. Life was so much easier when I didn't care. Now, of course, I wouldn't I wouldn't take back the knowledge. I'm just saying it's difficult to care, but it's worth it. It's not only worth it for yourself, but you know who it's worth more to? Your victims. Your victims care more. So you can make that effort. You can make that change. And listen, you're walking around with a cell phone. Everyone's connected. So whatever thing that you're having a problem with, punch it up online. What should I eat? Where's the best vegan food in this town? Where can I get some vegan shoes? Where can I buy some vegan clothing? Where can I go to entertain myself where animals aren't being abused? So you can make this, it's all up here. If you make your mind up to do this, just like I did 29 years ago, that I was no longer going to be a two-legged devil to my animal friends, you can make this happen.
Well,
How
I've
about it?
always thought myself to be an animal lover, and now you've made me realize that
No.
maybe I'm not as
I
much
got
as I
news for
thought.
you, my friend. If you eat animals, if you have dead, dismembered animals in your refrigerator, if you're wearing the skin of somebody else's body on your shoes, on your body in the form of a jacket, you're an animal hater. And I'm not trying to be dramatic. You hate animals if you eat them. You despise animals if you wear them. You absolutely hate animals if you think that they were put on this earth to be food, clothing, entertainment, and research. So, how about we change that narrative? And how about we make you an animal lover today? How about today is the day that you become vegan and you give me a handshake and say that today I'm going to do it. I'm going to change my life because I want to change their lives. No animal will have to be exploited by you anymore. Even though they're still going to be exploited, they won't be exploited for you. Clear your conscience right now. What do you think?
Yeah, thank you, Gary. I think you've changed my mind. I think vegan is the best way to go for everyone.
You're now a reborn vegan.
Yes,
Born
vegan
again
again.
vegan.
Thank you, Gary, for converting me back to veganism. I
That was
almost lost
cool,
my
by the
way
way.
there.
No, you know what? I've been doing about 30 podcasts, and I don't always get a new question, a new scene. So that was
Yeah.
fun, man.
Well, thank you for reigniting my passion to be an animal lover again. Thank you.
By the way, I didn't follow protocol to a T.
No, I
If
know
Paul
that.
Bashir
That's
is
all right.
watching, he's gonna scold me.
Because I know there's the 3-strike policy, and then I know the flow chart as well. But I think it's still an effective way for people to
Yeah.
realize of some of the things I was mentioning. Because obviously I've done a lot of outreach as well. Is they're some of the most common questions among with it's my personal choice. It's going to be difficult socially. My friends are going to judge me. I'm this culture, and I'm going to have to you know betray my culture because I can't wear the clothes or eat the food of my culture, and all of these kind of reasons, I should say, excuses for not making the change, because there are a lot of social pressures, as you mentioned. There's marketing, we're hidden from the truth, there's stories, there's conditioning, there's indoctrinations, and that's where all of these reflex defenses come from, because these are almost primitive defense mechanisms, because we're taught these things from such a young age. As you've talked about in your speeches many times, is the most universal and the first form of discrimination is exactly what you told me. And that was, we're told to love certain animals, and obviously every culture is different, but there's animals that we love and respect, and even then we're still commodifying them of sorts. But yeah, it's just crazy that this is the one universal discrimination, is just how we view animals. Like, there I was eating a pig while patting my dog, and that was my first realization of, why am I doing this? Why haven't I questioned this before, where I'm eating a pig who is such a beautiful, intelligent animal? And there's not really much difference between a pig and a dog. But here I was discriminating. Here I was believing that I wanted to be love and kind and peaceful and all for consent. And here I was paying for violence and oppression and discrimination and slavery, all things that I was supposedly against. And that's where it all became unstuck for me. And that's where obviously I can't go back from that, because once you view it that way, as you know, for the last 29 years, you just can't not see it that way.
The other problem is people become defensive because humans hate to admit when they're wrong for some reason. And
Hmm.
I don't get it. I mean, you can't possibly know everything. Everybody walks around acting like they're an expert in everything, and I don't understand this. In fact, the moment I became vegan, I was only vegetarian first, and a group of people from Texas that I saw, I was in DC for some conference, and they asked me where they can get a good veggie burger, and I said, down the street at the Hard Rock Cafe. I just had one. They said, but Gary, it's not vegan. These are not quotes. So, what do you think happens to mother cows when they can't give milk anymore?
Yeah.
Oh, I said, oh, this is a quote. That's what made me vegan. I didn't know. And instead of fighting and coming up with stupid comments and stupid
Hmm.
excuses, I said, oh, there's nothing wrong with looking in the mirror and saying you've been doing something wrong and it's time to make amends. But the reason why I've noticed people become so defensive and say stupid things like God says it's okay, or dogs are more important than cows, or animals can't think and feel, it's because their foundations have crumbled. And instead of
Hmm.
rebuilding those foundations and being logical and saying, I'm sorry, and making amends and changing the future, people end up trying to walk on these crumbled foundations. And that's when they become defensive and they say stupid things. And I don't know, of all the issues that people could be defiant about, why would you be defiant about not exploiting animals? Why would you want
Hmm.
animals to be tortured and killed, have their babies stolen, have their heads chopped off? I don't understand why we want to be so evil and vicious and vile. And you brought up something else about not realizing you were eating a pig when you were petting your dog. I'm going to call somebody out. I don't usually do this, but uh, most people are incapable of making this connection. Even people that we admire, that we think are brilliant and wonderful. So for so many years, Stephen Colbert was an icon of knowledge, of wit, of sense and decency. And then I catch him on his show years ago. He actually brought somebody on that genetically engineered pigs from the meat industry.
Mm,
They had two baby pigs. The guy who had one in his arms, and Colbert had one in his arms. And on the
mm,
table, there were strips of bacon.
mm,
As Colbert was petting the pig, he was eating the bacon, but you could see he was holding this pig like the pig was a precious baby, which he was, and didn't make the
mm,
connection. It makes my brain melt when I
mm,
see seemingly brilliant people not make this connection. So I want to point this out to people. Don't act like you can't talk to anybody about this topic. Don't go, oh, I got to go to a certain group of people. I have to talk to this group because they're only going to get it, and this group wouldn't get it. Bullshit. Nobody gets it. So anyone's capable of getting it, but that connection, that cognitive dissonance is real.
mm,
Colbert proved it that day, and people
mm,
prove it every day. They walk around saying, I'm an animal lover, I love animals, and they're wearing cowskin shoes,
mm,
a cowskin jacket, they're eating a hamburger, a steak, a bucket of chicken wings. And one of the biggest crimes to me too, and this all ties in, is that nobody even sees an animal for who they are anymore. People
mm,
look at a cow and they don't see a cow. They see a milk machine. They see a briefcase, a pair of shoes. They look at a chicken and see a bucket of wings. They look at a turkey and think, "Oh, it's Thanksgiving time. I want the leg. I want
mm,
I want the dark meat. I want the light meat." They don't even see animals for who they are anymore, and
mm,
that's victimization. I think I pointed out during the speech. You want to talk about victimization? Animals are so victimized, we don't even see them as victims. You want to talk about being fucked up and put on the back of the bus? Try to be an
mm,
animal. Try to walk on all fours. Try to have fur, feathers, horns, beaks, or gills. You want to know oppression? Humans don't have a clue about oppression. And humans have been oppressed. They have no clue what it's like to have feathers and have gills.
mm,
I mean, we murder 2.7 trillion marine animals every year. 2.7 trillion? There hasn't even been 2.7 trillion human beings since the beginning of time, not even close to that. This is
yeah,
the biggest form of oppression, the biggest Holocaust that has ever existed. And it's time for humans to climb out of their abyss of callousness and extend some simple decency. And the reason why I get so upset with humankind, people have heard me talk about this. Humans are running around all over this planet demanding life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. At the same time, denying life, liberty,
mm,
and pursuit of happiness to the animal kingdom. I don't appreciate nor understand the hypocrisy. And I'm
mhm,
tired of standing up for groups of human beings that won't understand hypocrisy when I would expect more from them. And I do want to say this: over the years, my lectures, my best audiences were minorities. You give me a crowd of black people, crowd of gay people, a crowd of women. I mean,
mm,
they understood oppression more than the other groups did, but even they violated animals nearly at
mm,
every turn, and it has to stop. I don't know why humans. I don't know why anybody would want to walk around thinking they're more special. Anyways, that's weird to me.
mm,
It's and especially when non-vegans accuse us of thinking that we're egotistical. I don't think my life is more valuable than a worm, than an ant. It's completely opposite. That's why I'm vegan. I don't think anyone should have to suffer and die and be exploited for me. When I dug a trench in my backyard about 6 years ago, I don't know if people know what a sump pump is. It's a device where, when you have a basement, it's a device that collects rainwater so your basement doesn't flood. Well, the sump pump wasn't connected properly, so outside it was spitting water up, but going back down this pipe. So I dug a 30-foot trench. Took me 10 hours. You know why it took me 10 hours? It only took me 2 hours to dig it. Took me 8 hours to make sure when I put the shovel into the ground, I wasn't gonna hit a worm. I went slowly.
mm,
And then when I got that lump of dirt out, I opened it up and got all the worms out and relocated them in my compost pile. And you know how many worms are out there, by the way? I stopped counting at 500. But I did
Jesus.
that because I don't think my
Mm,
life was more
mm,
important than a worm and that they should have to die because I wanted to fix the sump pump. So it's possible to be kind and live kindly. I don't know why people think it's impossible. We could do this. We could have a peaceful paradise. We can make heaven right here on earth for the animals, but we choose to make it a hell. I'm now convinced that we're living in hell. That
yeah.
this really is hell. At least it's hell for the animals. And it's hell for anybody who's been awakened and enlightened, who's had their blinders taken off. Because every second of every day I'm reminded of it.
Mm,
And I don't always want to be reminded of this abuse. But I can't get away from it either. I'm watching sports games. All they do is talk about all the meat that they're eating, or the
mm,
new, the new sandwich at the stadium. I'm like, this is a fucking sporting event. Why are you talking about eating dead animals? You can't get away from. I'm watching a TV show. All of a
mm,
sudden, it's funny. I'm laughing, and here they go. They
mm,
make the joke about animals being stupid or eating animals, or they're mocking vegans. I mean, it's nonstop all day long. I'm in the car when I used to drive from lecture to lecture, city to city. Man, I'd be listening to Led Zeppelin, Judas Priest. I'm rapping along with Eminem and Tech Nine. I'm having a blast. All of a sudden, in the distance, coming my way, I
mm,
see it. Here comes a slaughterhouse truck.
mm,
Here it comes. Like, fuck, man. Here I am having fun. I turn the radio off. It's like, fuck. Even I feel guilty and I'm not doing anything anymore. But there goes the slaughterhouse truck right by me. And what am I supposed to do? I want to stop it. How?
mm.
How can I
Yeah.
stop it as a vegan? Like, we have to accept this is, and this is something else that also bothers me. And why, if people wonder why it takes so long to achieve our goals, we have to ask and beg the animal exploiters to stop exploiting. You imagine that? And think about what humans have had to do over the years. Now, I get all, when I first started, I got all my inspiration from black activists in America. The Black Panthers, Malcolm X, Dr. King, Marcus Garvey, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass. These people inspired me. But the more I thought about it, as wonderful and as brave as they were for speaking up and speaking out, black activists did not liberate blacks in America. Black activists had to beg white people, white abusers,
Yeah.
white enslavers to stop exploiting. Women throughout history, they didn't liberate themselves
Mm,
when they've achieved liberation in certain parts of the world. They had to beg men to let them in and give them equality. So this is our problem right now. We have to go to the meat, dairy, and egg eater, to the vivisectionist, to the hunter, to the rodeo cowboy, and we have to say, can you guys please stop harming these animals, stop viewing them as commodities? And this is why this task is taken so long. It's been thousands of years. I don't know how much longer it's gonna go on, but if I had the power, obviously I would have stopped it 29 years ago, but it's not in my hands. It's in the hands of the
mm.
abusers.
Yeah. And it's great. I feel your pain because again, as I mentioned, I've only been vegan for 6 years, and I'm disappointed and I'm heartbroken after 6 years. And it breaks my heart the same that you just said every time I pass a truck or as I mentioned, I do go to a few slaughterhouse vigils, and it's just so heartbreaking to see that. It reminds myself of what I did for 30 years, and it also reminds me that all of the people who I love and admire and adore, and people who I know are really good people, are doing something so bad. And one of the languages you used before was the word Holocaust. And people would be offended by that language. And I want to know why you think that that's an appropriate use of language. Yeah, I'll leave that question with you.
Yeah, first of all, I don't know why people are offended by the word Holocaust or using slavery analogies or saying that
Mm,
female animals are raped. But it goes back to actually something you said earlier when we did that mock little street uh,
mm,
confrontation. Humans just love to believe that they're more special, that they're superior. So they think that the Holocaust that they went through, the Jews of the world think the Holocaust they went through, the Armenians of the world think the Holocaust they went through, the blacks of the world think that the slavery that they experienced, the women of the world think that the rapes that they've experienced are worse than the slavery, the Holocaust, the endless tortures and murders and baby stealing that the animals are going through? Why? Why wouldn't you feel empathy instead of anger? So it goes back to
and the
humans
scale
thinking,
as well.
yeah,
And the
and
scale is just overwhelming. Yeah.
when you look at the numbers, again, it's laughable. I mean, nowadays, if anybody does get offended when I say the word Holocaust, I'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't. I would never make that comparison of the animal Holocaust to the Jewish Holocaust." Meanwhile, they think that I'm empathizing with them. I say I would never embarrass the animal kingdom by claiming their Holocaust was similar to the Jewish Holocaust. Okay, you're talking about 6 to 12 million Jews and gypsies and mentally retarded people and blacks that were killed by Nazis. In 2 seconds on this planet, there's 12 million animals that have been killed. So yeah, I don't understand why people are so offended, except that they think they're more special and human suffering. But this is also why I've stopped worshiping at the altar of humanity, why I stopped viewing humans as the crown of creation, because humans think the whole world revolves around them and all we do is violate and kill. We're parasites. I think on one of my famous interviews, I said that there are only 5 worthless beings on this planet: flies, fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and humans. Now, I have to update this list because I found out over the years that flies and mosquitoes are actually pollinators. They actually do something positive for this planet. So I took them off the list. So I'm down to fleas,
Great.
ticks, and humans. I can't figure out why either are here. All they do is attack. All they do is destroy. They don't do anything positive. I don't know why humans think they're so special, because if you remove humans from this planet, everything becomes better. We're the definition of unspecial, of unimportant. There's nothing valuable about the human species whatsoever. Not one fucking thing that we bring to the table that's positive. Now, I don't think it has to be this way, but that is the way it is right now. We are a worthless, unimportant species, and the world would be better off without us. In fact, if somebody gave me the power, put a button in front of me right now, Stefan, on this show, and said, "Gary, you could press this button right now and wipe out every human being," button would be pressed. I wouldn't even consult. I wouldn't ask Carmen. I wouldn't ask you. I wouldn't make a phone call to Paul Bashir. I'd press the fucking button. That's how disgusting humans are, and that's how horrible we are to everything on this planet. Not just the animals, the water we've polluted, the air that we've polluted, the forests that have been cut down because of us. I don't know why everything we do has to be destructive. It could be different. I think with a lot of education, we could change our ways. I know humans have a brilliant technological mind. As I condemn human beings, technologically, yeah, we're brilliant. I don't understand how we're having this discussion right now. I'm in Sevilla. You're in Australia. You can't explain to me why this works right now. So yeah, technologically, wow, brilliant. But how come we can invent this cell phone and this platform where we can have a live discussion, but we can't figure out how to be kind? We can't be
That's what.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing you mentioned earlier, just backtracking a little bit, when people are making that comparison to Holocaust, one of my favorite activists is, have you heard of Alex Hershaft? Have you heard
Sure.
of him?
I've known
Yeah.
Alex I knew him way back in the 90s.
Amazing. Yeah, obviously, he's only new in my sphere of awareness, but what an incredible man. Obviously, drawing those comparisons. For anyone who doesn't know, he is a Holocaust survivor, and he's probably one of the most prominent people to make that comparison, being an actual victim in that scenario. That's what made him become one of the, in my opinion, best animal rights activists, because of the position he was in.
There was a decent amount of Holocaust survivors over the decades that ended up becoming vegans because of what they experienced. And this is why I wrote in a famous essay that people freak out about, that they've actually never read. They've read one sentence that's been put out online, where I said, sometimes I think the most effective way of destroying speciesism is for each uncaring human to be forced to live the life of a cow on a feedlot, of a monkey in a research laboratory. Because I believe if you've gone through that literally, you now understand what it's like to be oppressed, what it's like to be exploited, what it feels like to be treated like nothing, like your life doesn't matter. So that is not surprising that Hershaft had that revelation, and that many other Holocaust survivors and many other people who have been abused made that connection over the years. I hate that I had to write that during this essay. It's called Empathy, Education, and Violence. It's on my adapt.org website, ADAPTT, 2 T's on adapt. People should read it in its entirety, and then you'll understand every comment that I made that's been taken out of context. It was just a wish of mine that everybody had to go through the abuse so they would understand why the abuse is wrong.
Mm. Now, I've got one of the first questions I wanted to ask you, actually. I know we're over an hour into it, was I'm curious to know, I mean, I've heard the answer, but I'd love my audience to hear is, what was your first connection point to feeling for animals? I know that you had a particular experience, but I'd love for you to share that again in terms of what made you realize that animals were being mistreated by humans.
Well, of course, like most people growing up, I had a huge connection to my dogs and dogs in general, cats in general, squirrels and bunny rabbits, all the creatures that Gary wasn't eating and Gary wasn't wearing. And it's easy to care about animals that aren't being abused. So then all of a sudden, my stepdad is a clown in the Shrine Circus, 1993. He says to me, "Hey, Gary, you want to come see the elephants at the circus?" Well, fuck yeah, I want to see the elephants. Are you kidding me? You would take me backstage? So I was with my girlfriend Wendy at the time, and we were playing with we were playfully pushing each other going backstage, like, I'm first, and we would throw each other back, and she'd push me back, I'm first. And we got back there, boy, that laughter and the
Mm,
giggling stopped. And I didn't need to be told what I was seeing was wrong. It needed to be explained to me exactly what was going on, but the sense that we all have of right and wrong, of seeing somebody in peril. I saw one of the most saddest beings I've ever seen. I saw an elephant chained up, front left foot, back right foot. She was
mm,
swaying back and forth, chained up to the cement floor in the warehouse of the Michigan State Fairgrounds. I turned to Wendy and actually said, "What the fuck is an elephant doing on 8 Mile and Woodward Avenue in Detroit, anyways?" She said, "I don't know." And I turned to the left, I saw a monkey screaming in his cage. I turned to the right, I saw lions and tigers pacing in their pathetic little cages. And Wendy and I walked out to see the rest of the show. And the bears came out wearing yellow tutus and riding tricycles. And that was the moment I said, "Let's get the fuck out of here. What is going on?" I thought I was an animal lover. So that made me investigate. And when I was back there, by the way, I did walk up to that elephant and I made a promise. And I've kept this promise. And I said to her that I would tell everybody about her plight, what she was going through. And
mm,
after that, I ended up going to Thornapple Valley Pig Slaughterhouse in Detroit because I mentioned this story to my
mm,
oldest and dearest friend Darren, and he said, "Gary, if you think they mistreat elephants in the circus, you should see what they do to pigs at the slaughterhouse." I worked 6 blocks from Thornapple Valley in downtown Detroit, Eastern Market area. I smell death every morning. I said, "What?" I said, "Call me tomorrow when you smell it. I want to go down there." He calls me at 8 o'clock in the morning. I smell it, man. They must have
mm,
just started killing him. Jumped in my car, drove down there. 20 minutes later, I'm at Auschwitz. I'm at the Holocaust again. Same technique, same mindset, different victims. That's all it is. When you make comparisons, by the way, Holocaust, slavery, it's the same horrible things that are going on, the same atrocities, just the victims look differently. And you mentioned looking at those pigs when you had seen them
mm,
at that vigil. Well, I saw 6 trucks
mm,
with pigs inside of them. And I walked up, still a meat, dairy, and egg eater, still a stubborn meat, dairy, and egg eater. Tears rolling down my face, though, as I peeked in, as they
mm,
looked out at me and their eyes were screaming, "Why are you doing this to
mm,
us?" I didn't have an answer in my head. In my head, I was saying, "I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's going on." I went every day for 6 weeks because I couldn't believe what I saw the day before.
mm,
And the people that saw me after I came home, whether it was my mom or it was Darren or some other friends, girlfriends, they said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Oh, nothing." And I'm
mm,
slumped over. And they say, "Were
mm,
you at the slaughterhouse again today?" I say, "Yeah." They said, "Why?" I said, "'Cause I can't believe what's going on. And everyone's blind to it. Me too." So those were the moments that shaped
mm,
my activism. Still a stubborn meat eater. I used to talk about the elephant in the circus to the guys at the gym. I've been working out every day since I was 13, 14 years old. And they listened for a few months. And then the guys at the gym, get this, they would say to me, "Gary, you're a hypocrite. You scream about the elephants every day and you eat dead cows and dead pigs." Little did
mm,
they know they were right. They also laid the groundwork, right? They were trying to shut me up, But the more they said it, I'm like, why do I care
Mm.
so much about elephants, and why do I not care about cows and pigs? So all this formed Yourofsky. This is what finally made me grasp what was going on and then realize it wasn't enough just to be vegan. I
Mm-hmm.
had to speak up and speak out. And you hear the voice that I have. And listen, it's not that I enjoy being put in front of the camera in the spotlight. I'm a shy dude, to be honest with you. Man, growing up,
Mm-hmm.
if I liked a girl in high school, my friends had to push me down the hallway to make me talk to them. If I had to call a girl on the phone, my sister had to write down questions on a piece of paper so I could ask them. I'm a shy dude. I used to stutter. Actually, I still stutter once in a while. If you listen sometimes, I'm not just trying
Mm.
to get my thoughts, I'm stuttering. So I don't like being in front of the crowd. It's not my thing, but if not me, then who? If not
Yeah.
now, then when? So I felt that I had to get over the stuttering. I had to get over my shyness and the fear and speak up for them. So yeah, the elephant opened my eyes, and a lot
Yeah.
of other creatures along the way made me understand the importance of why vegan, why we're doing what we do, and why we can't stop until every cage is empty, until every mother animal
Mm.
gets to keep her baby, until every slaughterhouse has been burnt to the fucking ground.
Yeah. And even when you were just recounting your experience with the pigs for the first time, you can always remember that first time. And I like to think myself as quite an emotionally resilient person, but that broke me. And I know that you've probably had many moments that have broken you. And there's
It
just so
broke me that
many.
day. I had tears rolling down
Yeah.
my face. Here I'm
Yeah.
a grown ass man crying in the
Yeah.
street because there's a truck full of pigs about to be
Mm.
killed. How could you not? I don't
Yeah.
understand how people aren't emotional about this. I never
Mm.
understood those when I was doing 200 lectures a year, that was my average. I had 15 or 20 classes, only 15 or 20, great ratio, that turned into a shouting match. I don't understand it to this day. I showed
Mm.
you animals being tortured and killed and abused, and you fought with me so much that you screamed and yelled at me and told me they would call me Hitler. They would call
Mm.
me Timothy McVeigh. They would call me a devil. But man, I've seen the abuse. I've been there. A
Mm.
lot of that footage I used to show in my slaughterhouse videos, footage that I took. I broke
Mm.
into vivisection labs. I went behind the scenes of every circus that ever came through Michigan. I wanted to see for myself. I went behind the scenes at the rodeo. I broke into these places of torture. And the last time, you want to know a sad fucking story that destroys me to this day? The last time I ever went to a place of torture, I can't do it anymore. Now, all the other times I went somewhere, and including the mink liberation, right? I was in the farm. I was opening
Mm.
up cages and freeing animals. Uh, I went to an auction house in Manchester, Michigan, which is 15 minutes from Sasha Farm, sashafarm.org, Animal Sanctuary of Paradise. But I wanted to get some footage. All the other times I went to places of torture, the animals recognized me. And
Mm.
I always believe animals have another sense that humans have never had, or we once had and we lost along the way when we became so disconnected from the natural world. But this was a time where the animals didn't recognize me.
Yeah.
There were two cows and two sheep back there. I had my camera out. I was getting footage. They were waiting to be called out to the auction floor. The two of them were spray painted with blue
Mm.
lines to represent that they were males. Two were spray painted with red lines, pink paint to let people know they were females. And as I was filming them, they turned in fear and horror and moved to the back of the stall and started shivering. And I said, "Hey guys, no, guys, it's Gary. I'm just getting footage. I'm going to show everybody what you're going through. I'm so sorry. I wish I could take you." And they were shivering in
Mm.
fear. I saw nothing and felt nothing but fear and hopelessness. And it was like they were screaming at me, "Leave us alone. What are you going to do to us now? What are you going to cut off of us now? Which friend and family member are you going to steal from us now?" And it broke me, man. It fucking broke me.
Mm.
I, I, I have never been back to a place of torture since, and I can't get that
Mm.
image out of my mind, no matter what I do. That people wonder why I do
Mm.
become militant, or I say the things I say about humans and how much I despise humankind, and why I press the button to eradicate us. Because that day, Those animals looked at me as a two-legged devil. And
Mm,
I've spent the last 29 years doing everything in my power not to be a two-legged devil, saving worms from holes I was digging, moving worms off the street after a rainstorm. This is how much I don't want to be a two-legged devil. But that day, those animals were so frightened, and there's
mm,
so much fear inside of them. All they saw was two-legged devil, and they no longer recognized the good from the
mm.
bad. So this is why the militancy of Gary comes out, and the militancy of of vegans. When you hear people getting pissed off and getting angry or screaming at somebody, that's why. Similar experiences. We don't want to be two-legged devils to them anymore, and that's how they view us. And this shit has to end, man. It does.
And I actually myself haven't been in a slaughterhouse, but I just want to make people aware of a really important website, particularly in Australia. It's called Farm Transparency Project. They have a website, Facebook and Instagram. I really want people to check it out. And we will talk about Sasha Farms in a little bit, but I've spent days looking at photos, and the photos broke my heart because you just see trenches where animals have just been thrown in there like they're nothing. You just see photos of these animals with pressure sores on them. They're in cages, they're crushed to death by others, their tails are cut off, their teeth are pulled out. And as you mentioned, that is the work of the devil. If people say that God says it's okay to eat animals, what would the devil do? And I think you've quoted something similar to that. If this is what God wants us to do, what does the devil want? And yeah, I think it's so important getting these exposures. And I've been very emotional just by seeing photos, and I can only imagine what it would be like to witness this in real life. Another
It's
question I
so
want to ask.
horrible because
Yep.
death and fear have an odor.
Yep.
So everything you're describing is accurate, but to see it, to be there,
Yep.
you're now feeling it and sensing the fear and the death and the torture. They're emitting it from their bodies. And by the way, the whole God, what would the devil do?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
actually that's actually my line. I came up with
I
that
know
shit.
that.
I could
I said that. I know that. I know
no,
that.
I
Yeah.
could tell you when I came up with it at Valley Forge Christian College in rural Pennsylvania once. That's another story, but I don't know if you want to hear it real quick.
Oh, we can go for it.
Oh, so I used listen. And by the way, for people out there, don't think you can't reach the religious crowd. Don't get me wrong; they're the toughest crowd to reach. But I reach the religious people. Just know your Bible arguments, know your Quran arguments, understand that you can explain godly behavior to them. So I'm doing this lecture. I used to speak at Valley Forge several times a year for 8, 9 years. It was a really good talk, and then we get to the Q&A, and then we get into the scriptural game. And this can go on forever and ever. So I bring up Genesis 1:29, God's first dietary laws. I give you seed-bearing plants. They bring up Genesis 9:3, everything that moves along the ground is yours for food. I bring up Proverbs 12:10, a wise man cares for the needs of his animals, but the kindest acts of the wicked are cruel. And then they bring up, so it's back and forth. And so I keep winning them over, losing them back, winning them, losing them. So now there's about, I don't know, there's 40, 50 students in the class. You know I can be dramatic from what you've seen and probably today too. So I stand in front of the crowd and I put my hands up like this and I close my eyes. I'm trying to silence the crowd and get them to shut the fuck up. So it takes me about 60 seconds and I can hear him rumbling and mumbling like, what's he doing, man? Why is he up there? I'm waiting for them to shut up. So in my head, now I didn't have an ending. I had a beginning. I always knew that whenever I started preaching and saying something, I would end up in the right spot because I had to for my clients. I'm an attorney and I'm representing the animals. So in my head, I was going to come up with every evil thing that I could think of that humans have done to animals. And I was going to preface each line by saying, if God condones this, or if God says this is okay. So I go, if God says it's okay to cut the tails off of baby pigs, if God says it's okay to electroejaculate male animals, if God says it's okay to beat elephants in the circus, if God says it's okay. So it goes on for 3 minutes. That's how my brain worked back in the day. I came up with every evil thing that I had ever seen. And I still didn't know how I was going to end it, but I ended it. If God says it's okay to do this, then what does the devil do? And as soon as I said it, I was like, holy, like in my head, don't fucking forget this, man. That
Yeah.
is priceless. And I said it, and the crowd, I was just like blown away. And the Reverend
Mm.
Bruce Marino, that was his class. He was in the back corner of the room, arms folded, and he shook his head and he said, everybody give Mr. Yourofsky a round of applause. A little fire always shed the
Mm.
light on the darkness. And that man, when that's what I think one of the best things
Yeah.
I ever this crazy brain ever came up with, and it's come up with a lot of shit. In fact, I've only slept for 2 hours a night for most of my activism career because all night long, my brain won't let me sleep. It puts me in a mock debate and says, "Well, what are you gonna say when they say this, Gary?" I'm like, "No, I just want to sleep." It's like, "But what are you gonna say when they?" I'm like,
Mm.
"Oh, I got something really good. Okay, can I go to sleep now?" And it's like, "No, because now they're gonna say this, and what are you gonna say?" It never ends. So the brain is a curse and a blessing. It's a blessing. It came
Yeah.
up with those wonderful speeches everybody loves and converted all those people. And it's a curse because I don't sleep well. Although I'm sleeping well these days. These
I'm
days
glad.
I'm up
I'm
to
glad you're
five,
getting
six,
some sleep. Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8 hours a night sometimes these days, especially since Carmen entered my life
Yeah.
and I'm alive again with my activism and things are looking up. So I'm finally getting some good rest. But yeah, that whole God devil thing,
Mm.
man, that was Valley Forge Christian College.
That's amazing. One thing I want you to speak about, Gary, if you don't mind, is just the absurdity of you being a criminal. If you can just
Okay.
expand on your criminal ways and being viewed in society as a criminal for the things that you've done.
I'm the tofu terrorist. It's amazing that I've been labeled. And literally, there's a video. I don't know where it's at, but I saw it. Somebody showed it to me in Congress in America. They actually listed my name and said I was a terrorist, a domestic terrorist. And when people get to sit down next to me and see me in person, they always say the same. You you're a terrorist. If people only really knew the real me, I'm a goofball. I usually baby talk all day long. My ex-wife Erica, she used to have to scream at me 10 times a day, say, "Will you use your fucking real voice?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, baby. How was your day today?" Because she'd come and I'm like, "Yeah, how you doing?" Da, da, da. So when people sit down next to me, they don't understand the terrorist label and the criminal stuff. Now, what I did over the years, I freed animals who were going to have their necks broken, mink from a concentration camp in Blenheim, Ontario, and all of a sudden I'm a criminal, I'm a
Mm.
terrorist. Think about it. If in those cages there were children, what if there were women in those cages waiting to be raped? What if there were black people in those cages waiting to be sold into slavery? All of a sudden, I'd be a fucking hero. But the beings in those cages were mink. Mink, nobody cares about rodents in our society. Ah, they're just rats. Ah, they're just fur coats. Again, we're back to,
It's a
mislabeling
crime
them.
because it's a crime because they're property. That's why you were stealing
It's
property.
I was stealing, and isn't that a
Yeah,
crime that animals are viewed as property?
exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that was the first time I was really labeled a criminal and a terrorist. I was charged with B&E for entering that
Mm.
farm. I was charged with criminal mischief. I was sentenced to 6 months in a max detention center. Do you know that even the criminals in the prison, once I got there, it was all over the news, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock news lead story. The first thing the guys would say to me is, what the hell is a mink? I said, okay, it's kind of like a big ferret. It's in the rodent family. And then they'd say, wait a second, they put you in here with us? They emphasized us. They knew they were bad people. I was in
Mm.
with people that stabbed people, that tried to kill people, that were domestic abusers. They said they put you in here with us because you freed some rats? I said, no, no, no. They put me in here with you because I caused $2.1 million in damage and put this guy out of business permanently. And we don't tolerate economic sabotage in our society because people worship the almighty dollar more than they worship human life or animal life, especially. That's why I was put in this prison. Yeah, and I do think it's outrageous because
Mm.
if I were to free any human being from this horrible place, they'd have a fucking parade for me. They'd lift me up on people's shoulders in downtown Detroit and have a ticker tape parade and have confetti dropping down. They would fucking have a holiday named after me. This guy went out and freed 1,542 children who were going to be sold into the sex slave trade. This guy's a hero. But again, I went and did it for Mink. So the truth is something else that we have to examine. Nobody opposes breaking in to a place of torture and liberating enslaved beings. They just oppose if those enslaved beings are animals. If they're humans, that type of criminal activity wouldn't be criminalized. In fact, I've gone a step further in that essay I brought up, Empathy, Education, and Violence. Nobody opposes violence either. They just oppose who I propose to be violent for. Nobody thinks we should kill a human being on behalf of a chicken or a cow or a pig or a monkey. Well, I think the chickens and the cows and the monkeys would disagree vehemently, but it's okay to break into Auschwitz and shoot Nazis to save Jews. It'd be okay to go shoot a white slave owner 300 years ago to save some black slaves. It'd be okay to go shoot a domestic abuser who was beating up his girlfriend and held her hostage. And if the police came in and shot him in the head to save the woman, all of a sudden the police are heroes. So nobody even opposes violence either. They just oppose who animal rights people like me propose to be violent for. The whole thing is absolutely backwards. The world is backwards. Everything everybody does is backwards. This is how I know vegans are right. Everyone's on the other side because the crowd has never once in history been on the right side of a social justice movement. Always been a small group of people saying, hey, wait a second, what are you doing to these beings? Do you know what you're doing? Always been a small group trying to explain to the larger group what they're doing is wrong. And when I spoke to the judge that day, when I was convicted for the liberation, people think the Georgia Tech speech I gave is the best speech ever, most important. If people only got to hear what I said that day, that was the best speech I ever gave. And here's a little teaser for everybody. I did a podcast with Joey Carbstrong, the great activist, last month. It's going to be released soon. Joey surprises me mid-interview and hands me an iPad. It was a live interview. And he goes, I want you to do something. I'm like, what? And he hands me the iPad. He goes, can you read the Mink Liberation speech? Because there's a transcript of it on your website. I said, are you kidding me? I've always wanted to record this. I've never done this. He said, do it. I was transported back to the courtroom almost perfectly because, put it this way, when I was done giving that speech, Joey and the two camera people were in tears. What I said that day, in fact, my attorney, Steve Rogan, begged me that day not to give the speech. He said, Gary, don't give this speech. I already talked to the DA, the Crown Attorney. They're giving you 3 years in prison. You're gonna make this worse. Don't say anything. Just apologize. I said, well, there ain't no fucking chance in the world I'm apologizing for what I did. What I did was magnanimous and altruistic. He said, please don't. I said, I'm giving the speech. Tell the judge right now. Tell him right now. This is going down. He said, okay, Your Honor, Mr. Yourofsky has something to say. You're gonna have to wait for Joey to release it, but I'll give you a little snippet. The part that the judge really listened to the most is when I said, my presence in this courtroom today is paradoxical. I asked this court, if it's not a crime to torture, enslave, and murder animals, then how can it be a crime to free tortured, enslaved, and soon to be murdered animals? That judge went like this. He went, there were several times throughout the speech where he went, I have points to make. I'm not doing this just to be radical for no reason. I'm not doing this to be a troublemaker. And near the end of the speech, I quoted William Lloyd Garrison, a slave abolitionist, when he said, on this topic, I do not think or write or speak with moderation. I am in earnest and I will be heard. And I said, Garrison also said, my influence will be felt in coming years, not perniciously, but beneficially, not as a curse, but as a blessing. And posterity will bear testimony that I was right. There will be no compromise here today because the truth cannot be compromised. That judge ends up saying, 6 months in prison. My attorney, Rogan, leans over. He says, I have never seen anybody talk themselves down from a sentence. That judge really listened to you. You were going to get 3 years. You just saved yourself 2.5. I said, again,
Mm.
you, if you were listening to me, it had to make sense. He listened again. Now, I wanted him. I had 3 goals during that mink liberation. One, obviously, I wanted to give those mink a chance to be free. 2, I wanted to put this murderer out of business. I succeeded on the first 2. 3, I wanted that judge to take his gavel and hit it down and say, I cannot find this man guilty for this
Mm.
random act of kindness. Now, he gave me the trite line of, it's not that I oppose what you believe, Gary. It's how you went about it. You broke the law, which is a crock of shit, too. Laws have always been broken. Nelson Mandela was a lawbreaker. Gandhi was a lawbreaker. Everybody we admire, Dr. King, Cesar Chavez, they were all radical lawbreakers. So he gave me the trite line, not understanding history. People love to rewrite it and forget about all the law breaking these wonderful people took part in. And he said, I have to sentence you 6 months in prison. But I tell you what, man, it was quite an experience because
Mm.
I got to live the life of a caged animal,
Yeah.
and it made me more focused. It made me want to preach more and more. It made me want to not stop more and more, and because I knew I was getting out, and I was being driven insane. That's what prison is. You're living in a cage. And I said, I can't believe that they live like this. They never get out of this. They get murdered in this. Oh
Mm.
man, I can't wait till I get out of here. So it was quite an experience up and down.
Yeah. And there's just so many activists who have done so many incredible things. That is an incredible story. And there's so many stories like this of people putting their own physical, legal, psychological well-being at risk for this cause. And just one thing you were mentioning earlier as well is when you were saying that it's amazing how you breaking and entering was a crime. That when we change the species, if there's a dog, for example, in most Western cultures in a hot car, I have the right to smash the window open to save the dog. And again, I would be a hero, and it's the person who has the dog in the car who is doing the wrong thing. And if I break the window open, I'm being a hero, as you've kind of alluded to with your example. But if I go and there's a slaughterhouse truck and full of not one dog, but 300, 400 pigs, I don't have the right to save this pig from death. But here I am being a hero saving a dog from death. And it's just incredible that there's an endless list of these hypocrisies. We could go on all night explaining
No,
these hypocrisies. Yeah.
that's a great one, though. I'm going to steal that. Thanks for bringing that up. I didn't even think of that myself, man. That is an awesome example. Yeah, you could break and enter somebody's car, but you won't be charged with B&E. You'll be given a fucking. They're gonna lead off the 5 o'clock local news with you. Hero
Yeah.
today saves dog from dying in a car.
Yeah.
The hypocrisy is what makes
Yeah.
your brain
There's
melt, right? It's
there's
everywhere you
been
look.
yeah. Yeah.
How about
And
turning on the
another
TV? How about watching the TV and commercials come on and there's people hugging and playing with a dog in one commercial, and then the next
yeah.
one they're eating
They're
dead
eating.
cows. I'm like, oh my God, don't
Yeah.
no one else sees this? Love the
Yeah.
dog, hate the cow.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I went to Linley Valley, the pig slaughterhouse, a month ago, and the thing that got my mind was, again, on the slogan at the front is Linley Valley pork taste the love. And you can just imagine the outrage. And it's just like this street only had 6 of us vegans there, taking photos, taking videos. But if this was a facility, instead of killing 5,000 pigs a day in gas chambers, if that was killing 5,000 dogs a day, that street would be full of furious citizens. It would be on the news, it'd be on the front page of the news, and everyone would care. And just having empty streets, just business as normal, just breaks your heart when there's just that hypocrisy, as you mentioned. They're just not seen as victims, even though the suffering of it's not how we feel about a dog being in a gas chamber versus how we feel about a pig being in a gas chamber. We must look at it how it must feel to be the pig or the dog in the gas chamber, being the victim.
And
And
the other
that's obviously,
atrocity, I'm sorry to interrupt. The other
of
atrocity
course,
too is when the news reported it, it would be positive. They wouldn't challenge you. You notice that
yeah,
every time a vegan gets on the news, now all of a sudden we're the enemy. They want to, hey, what God says is okay. Well, lions eat zebras. But if I'm helping dogs break out of a hot car, all of a sudden the questions are, wow, how did you feel today when you saw that? You must have felt like you had to do
Mm,
something and you went and did it. You're a hero. But all of a
mm,
sudden I go free the mink. They're like, well, why did you decide to break the law? Why did you decide to use
mm.
criminal behavior? Why did you put this guy out of business? This guy's got a family. How do you feel about putting his family now on Skid Row? Put him in the poorhouse. Well, what? All of a sudden, if it was a child molester, putting them in a poorhouse, some child pornographer, I'd be a hero. Nobody would care about the child pornographer going out of business, but people all of a sudden care about the mink murderer being put out of
Mm.
business.
Yeah,
Hypocrisy, man, it is endless. It is endless, and it will drive you crazy once your blinders have been
it's
taken off.
it's driven me crazy, and you've been driven crazy for 4 times as long as I have been, and I'm already going crazy with it all. And sometimes I wake up every morning being like, please, someone tap me on the shoulder, tell me that I'm wrong, tell me that abusing animals is the right thing to do, to exploiting animals is the right thing to do. Someone just tell me I'm wrong. Like, is there something crazy in the way that I'm thinking, that animals are here for us to just abuse in such horrific ways? And yeah, I sometimes think, is there a possibility that I'm wrong here? And I just can't. Yeah,
There's not a possibility that you're wrong. So what you're thinking
yeah,
is what I think
yeah,
every day. It's
yeah,
this can't be real.
yeah.
Now, I can't talk about this like I talk about animal rights, but I now believe firmly we're living in a simulation and somebody is fucking with us. Because every day I wake up, I go, okay, I'm tired of this game. There's no way this shit is happening to animals. There's no way human beings are this stupid, vile, and evil. Okay, haha, joke's
Yeah.
over. Okay, can we end this now? Or at least somebody out there take me to the planet where the giraffes are. Just drop me off on the sloth planet. Please put me where the bunny rabbits are at. Stop it already. So I think
Mm,
you wake up thinking that this can't be real, not that, oh, animals
mm,
deserve it. There's no way this is really happening. Come
yeah.
on, it's not going on. There's not slaughterhouses. We're
Mm,
not slicing off. We came up with guillotine machines to cut off the heads of animals. We now came up with gas chambers, which is now the standard method of death for pigs and chickens. Stop it. We didn't create gas chambers for animals. So
mm,
sometimes I just think this is a simulation and somebody up there is fucking with everybody. And on top of it, it's, hey, let's put these people together. Let's put these Muslims and these Jews together. Let's put these black people and these white people together. Let's put these straight people and these gay people together. And let's put these animals with them all and watch everybody just torture and kill each other. It's like some sick
mm,
fucking game that somebody's having somewhere. Someone's
yeah.
having a big laugh over this, man, somehow.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's we're saying laugh, but obviously it's not
No,
funny, as I'm sure you know.
I know.
Um, I'll just change tone for a bit. This was actually going to be my first question, so we'll go back to the first question an hour and a half ago. How I was actually going to start this interview with Gary was, I absolutely love how passionate you are about Sasha Farms, and I would love to ask a few questions about Sasha Farms. I'd love for you to answer, or sorry, to speak about what drew you towards Sasha Farms, a little bit about the sanctuary, some of the animals that you've had experiences with. I'd love for you to share some of the beautiful animals that you've had a experience with. And lastly, I will post the link in the comments below, and I will obviously advertise Sasha Farm's website. But please explain to us how the money will help, and why would I donate money to a sanctuary? Why is that a worthwhile cause?
First of all, these animals have been rescued from places of torture, so every sanctuary should be supported by vegans. The animals have no one else to rely on but us. Now, I do think meat, dairy, and egg eaters should be forced to pay for animals at sanctuaries for all the violence they do, but that's not the reality. So they have no one else to rely on but us. And if we're going to go out there and convince people to not harm animals, there are going to be animals that need a place to stay. So I'm really disappointed in this movement for not supporting sanctuaries enough. Now, Sasha Farm would be okay if it wasn't for one thing. They've always brought in about 250,000 a year, which is what they need to run the place. But the old owner is retiring and he's demanding that we pay him for the 50 acres of land that Sasha Farm is on. And unfortunately, and we checked it out with a vegan real estate agent, Russ, who told us that unfortunately the fair market price is $675,000. So we're in a process of trying to raise that money so we can purchase the property so we can keep Sasha Farm going. Otherwise, we'd be fine. And for the record, I don't receive any compensation for this whatsoever. I've been going there for 30 years. What drew me there in 1996 when I became vegan, somebody said, hey, you know, there's a sanctuary. You should go visit the animals that you're always trying to save and that you've decided to save. So I'm going to encourage vegans out there too. So many people never stop at a local sanctuary to befriend the animals that they're always defending. You need to take some time out of your week, out of your month, and spend a few hours with the cows, the pigs, the chickens, the turkeys, the goats, and the sheep, the horses, and the donkeys to see that they are individuals, just like we talk about, that they do have their own personalities, that they're not all automatons and robots. Certain cows want to come up and play. Certain cows want to get scratched on their neck, scratched on their head. Certain ones don't want you near them at all. Just like some dogs want to play with you, some dogs don't. Some cats want to get up and get some belly rubs, and some of them don't. So they're the same as all the other animals that we've known. I brought some, and I used to bring a lot of meat eaters down there, and I would force them. I said, you go up to that pig, you look him in the eye and tell him that he should be your bacon every day. How do you
Mm.
feel right now? They're like, man, I feel like shit. I said, well, good. Lets me know there's a heart still left in you. There's a conscience still left in you. So bring some meat, dairy, and egg eaters down there and make them confront these animals. But I brought somebody down there once, Marcus, and what he said to me was, it still sticks with me because, Gary, I didn't know animals really made those sounds that they make.
Mm.
I thought that was
Mhm.
only in cartoons. This is how disconnected we are from the animal kingdom. This is a grown man that said to me, I didn't think roosters really crowed like that. I didn't think
Mm.
a cow really mooed. I didn't think the pig really made that oink sound. Like, my God, we are so disconnected. We've
Because
been lied to. So,
all we see is just chopped up dead body parts in a supermarket. You pass the butcher, you
yeah,
pass the soup, and all you see is animals are just these bits of flesh. That's all animals are, and
I
it's
think
just crazy that.
if people look up online, punch my name and punch in the greatest magic trick ever, my favorite thing I ever said, something to that effect, where I said maybe the last time or the only time you ever come into contact with animals is when they're cut up
Hmm.
and killed on your dinner plate. That's the problem. So, this place, though, this is a paradise. It's a place where
Mm.
animals can be themselves, right? No one's demanding anything from them for the first time in their lives. They want to sit under a tree all day long in the shade. They can do that. They want to be in the hot sun. They can go in the hot sun. They can eat grass all day. They can play with each other. They can do nothing. They can run around. They can do whatever they want to do for the first time in their lives. And for me, man, I got to meet so many amazing animals. Big Red comes to mind. I
Yeah, can
was
you
just
share
showing.
some? Can you share like one or two of your? I mean, it's hard to
Sure.
pick favorites, but just describe two of your friends.
Big Red, I'm going to say, and
Yeah.
go online, by the way. I did a video for Big Red. Punch in my name, punch in Sasha Farm and Big Red. He was a 2,200-pound bull. And when I first got there, he didn't like anybody at all. And it was my goal to befriend him. And even a couple of the vegans said, "Oh, you can't befriend him. He's too angry." I said, "Nah, bullshit. You can befriend anybody. It's just going to take some time." So I started bribing him with apples, a good way to bribe animals with food. Good way to bribe humans too, though. Don't think all animals. You give food to humans, you'll have your best friend ever, right? You walk to your neighbor's house, say, "Hey, I made you this," and they'll be like, "Oh shit, this is great." So, food is a good way to bribe anybody. So I started getting him to come to the fence to take some apples, but then he'd run away after he took the apples. I said, "It's okay, Red. We're gonna be friends one day." So he started recognizing me by sight and sound, by the car that I pulled up in, and I jump out of the car. I'm like, "Hey, Big Red!" And he pop his head up in the field, and he knew I was the apple guy. So one day I decided I was going to go in the back route so he didn't see me. I was going to sneak into the field, and the field had tall grass that day. It was about 3 feet high. And I jumped the fence. He didn't see me. He's at the back of the field, and I pop up and go, "Hey, Big Red!" And he starts running full steam ahead. Now I'm thinking, holy shit, wait a second. Should I jump the fence? And Monty is on the other side of the fence. And I said, "Monty, should I jump the fence? Is Big Red going to stop?" He's laughing. He's like, "Don't worry, Gary. Big Red likes you." I'm like, "Yeah, but Monty, he's running pretty fast. Is he gonna stop?" I'm like, "It's not a big deal. I could just hop the fence." He goes, "Gary, Big Red likes you. What's he gonna do to you?" So I had some faith, and sure enough, he's running full speed. He stops about 10 feet from me. Now he kind of nuzzles me up, pushes me up to the fence because I had apples in my back pocket. He was like, "Come on, man, I know you got some back." And I took out the apple. And, "Oh, okay, okay, here you go, here you go." And he took the apples, and for the first time, I think this is when we became friends. He didn't run away, and he actually put his head down in a deferent, submissive position. And I hate when animals do that. Again, I don't think I'm more
Mm,
special than Big Red or any other creature. So I got down on my knee and
mm.
went face to face with him, and he let me rub his face for the first time. I'm like, "Oh my God. Could you imagine rubbing the face of a 2,200 pound creature? Like, I don't understand how meat daring egg eaters don't have this empathy and this connect. Like, oh my, could you imagine
And
what it's like to hug them instead of kill them? A
and
hunter,
that's what
why would you want to shoot them instead of, man, if I could convince this deer to come up and take an apple, that would be a successful day, not putting a fucking arrow through their chest.
and that's
So
what gets me
bizarre.
is just even hearing that story. If you just replaced Big Red with my dog, everyone would be like, "What a joyful story! Thank you for sharing the personality of the dog." And just that story brought a big smile to my face because you can just feel. I wasn't even there, but I can feel the joy of Big Red in that story, and that smile that went on my face was more than eating any animal has ever given my joy. And I think it just animals give us so much more life being alive than dead. And again, that story was more enjoyable than any animal product I've ever eaten in my life. And that's what I'm saying. Animals give us more value alive than dead, right?
If
Crazy.
you've never experienced the love of an animal, you've
Mm,
never experienced love. It is. Do you
mm,
know what it's like to get how about a wild animal, which is difficult? Once in a blue moon, I'll get a squirrel to come up to me and take a nut out of my hand. Once in a while, right? You'll get like what a treat that is, and Big Red, and how about getting an abused animal to now trust
mm,
you again, which is what he did. He was abandoned. He was mistreated. He was viewed as nothing. So Big Red was one hell of a moment for me, and Bima, the ox, who's still alive right now. So if anyone's passing through Michigan and you get a chance to go to Sasha Farm, stop by Manchester because I got to tell you, this ox is a 1 in a billion bovine. You can go online, punch in my name, Sasha Farm, and sweetest ox, and this ox purrs if you pet him in the right spot. I didn't know bovines could purr. I even said on the, I'm like, "Is he purring?" He's so amazing and he wants to be hugged and kissed and touched and petted. So we've all had a blast hanging out with Bima. I was there actually for the rescue. Quickly, he was in a field and somebody was renting rent was paying a guy to keep these two oxen there. But then the property was sold. The guy calls us up and says, "You got 48 hours to come get these two ox, or I'm gonna fucking shoot them in the head." And
mm.
I'm quoting that, fucking shoot him in the head. So I went down there, me and Monty and Erica and I'm sorry, and Kate and Emily Barwick, Bite Size Vegan. People might recognize her name
Yep.
and her channel. So Emily was working there back at Sasha Farm in the day. So we went down there. We were able to get both of them into the trailer, which is not easy. Animals aren't stupid. They see a
Mm,
trailer, they know, you know what? Whenever an animal gets in that trailer, they never come back. So it took us a while to convince them, and actually, we had to put a rope around their necks and tie the rope to a tree, and then get the trailer up and just to force them into the trailer. So, anyways, we rescue them, we get them there, and man, they are the sweetest beings that you've ever seen in your life.
mm.
Unfortunately, Bima's brother, whose name all of a sudden I can't remember right now, he passed away from an infection in his horns. Bima's still going strong though. And then one more, I guess, cute one is I was hanging
Yeah.
out with Monty one day and we were baling hay, and all of a sudden a truck pulls up, a van pulls up in the back area, and you can see it. And Monty says, "Gary, there's a baby pig in that truck." I said, "Excuse me?" "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, somebody was driving behind a slaughterhouse truck, and somehow this pig fell out of the truck." I don't even
Mm.
understand it myself. I go, get the what? And he survived. He survived. They called us this morning and said we're going to be in a white van and we got a baby pig. So I start running full speed before anyone else because other people heard it. And I just took. I want to be the first one to hold a baby pig. Are you kidding me? I get to the van first. This pig he fits in the palm of my hands.
Mm.
Oh my God, the preciousness. So I'm looking at him, I'm kissing him, I'm touching him. He's oinking still as a little baby. And of course, I said, can we name him Gary Tofu, please? It was a nickname of mine over the years. I'm like, please let me call him Gary Tofu. And they're like, okay, Gary Tofu. So Gary Tofu ended up being one hell of a friendly character over the years. He lived a long, healthy life. I believe he was about 10 or 12, which is how long pigs are supposed to live. And he had a happy existence. Again, nobody harmed him. Nobody took anything from him. There are so many wonderful creatures
Yeah.
there. Boris was there too, a wild boar. Get this. Now here's the weird dichotomy that we were just talking about. Loving some animals, not loving
Mm.
others. So a hunter shows up at the farm one day with a baby boar. And his story is, man, I was out hunting and I shot the mother and I didn't
Oh.
realize she had a baby nearby and I don't know what to do with this baby. He was all brokenhearted. And in my head, like like, what the fuck? You don't have any empathy for the mother that you shot. That was okay. You can cut her head off, put it on the wall as a trophy. But all of a sudden, the baby, now all of a sudden you feel sorry for. So what an amazing, ridiculous dichotomy that this hunter was going through. But
So
man, a wild
yeah.
boar. It was
So
so
we kill. Yeah, we separate families every day. So not we, but
yeah.
society every day. We do this when we buy meat, egg, and dairy and fur. And yeah, it's crazy. This happens.
And
Everyone's supporting this every day.
And don't just think, as I don't want it to sound like, oh, it's just the baby animals we care about, or well, he cared about the baby that day. But you said it earlier. We're not only animal killers, we're baby animal killers. Chickens
Yeah.
we kill off at 6 weeks, pigs at 6 months. These are babies. Cows are two
Mm.
and a half, not quite a baby, but that's still a young bovine when they live to their 20. That
Yeah.
that that's an adolescent. That's an infant. We kill babies and still
Yeah.
make excuses nearly all the time. So we are a sick, demented species. But Boris got to live a happy, healthy life. He made friends with the other pigs, and Boris was a character too, man. I remember when I first saw him too. They said, "Gary, who do you think that is?" I didn't. I'm like, "Is that a baby deer?" Now, he was palm of my hand. I said, "But deer aren't that small. What in the hell is that?" He had the colors of of a deer, of Bambi. This is how I
Mm.
got. Who knew wild baby boars looked like this? And he was a character. Anyway, Sasha Farm always has about 200 rescued animals there, sometimes up to 250. I've been going there since 1996. It would break my heart if this place had to close
Mm.
down. And I'm not threatening anybody. Don't think the animals are going to die, but the animals would have to be relocated to other sanctuaries that are also struggling. And not only that, they'd have to be put in the trucks to transport them. I'll say it again, they're not stupid. They don't like trucks. They see trucks full of animals. They know that they never come back. And don't ask me how, but I know animals have their own languages. Humans are too fucking stupid to understand, me included. I wish I could speak boar. I wish I could speak groundhog and convince the groundhog that lives next to my house to come up and take some broccoli from me. I wish I could speak squirrel so all the squirrels say, hey, come on, I just want to just come sit on my lap. I just want to rub your belly. But we're too stupid to understand their languages, but
Mm.
they speak and communicate with each other. They know what goes on. They know what humans do to animals. So I don't want to have to put these animals on a truck and transport them. And don't act like they're going to be transported 15, 20 minutes away. Maybe there's another sanctuary there nearby, but most of them we'd have to take them out of state. They have to be in the truck for hours and hours, and
Mm.
it's not going to be a happy transportation process. So everybody, please donate what you can. Go to sashafarm.org on the main page, make a donation. And even if you don't like me, I don't care. This is not for me. This is for the animals that you claim to care about. You can even write in the donation comment, Gary sucks, but here's $50. Honestly, do it. And people have done it. I don't get compensation. And just so you know, 100% of the money goes to the animals, including this Shara Jones runs the animal sanctuary. She gets 50,000 a year, but she works 10, 12, 14 hours a day, nearly every single day. The money's still going to the animals. And there's 2 or 3 other part-time people. They get 21 bucks an hour. It all goes to the animals and the animal care, and everybody else who helps out is a volunteer. So please donate what you can. The money is well needed and well spent always at Sasha Farm. And I'll say this too, if you have a sanctuary nearby because you're in a different country, different city, okay, you don't want to send to Sasha, send it to your sanctuary then, because I also want to help all the sanctuaries around the world that are struggling horribly right now. So give money to your local sanctuary. Yeah, if you are a fan, if you are a Gary vegan, please send some money to Sasha Farm on my behalf. And donate time. They always need volunteers. So also spend a few hours there helping clean up the place, feed and water the animals. And if you've never been able to pet a cow or a pig or a chicken or a turkey yet as a vegan, you need to get over there. You need to hang out with the animals that you're fighting for and realize how amazing and wonderful they are.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Gary. And I just find it again so interesting that, you know, when people have pets or companion animals, they're willing to spend $1,000 or $2,000 to help their one animal, and but they're also willing to pay money to send other animals to slaughterhouses. So we all know the value in spending money to help animals, but it's just not seen that way. So thank you for
Not
sharing
only
those
that,
stories.
but not only that, vegans would spend a couple
Yeah,
$1,000 helping their dogs or cats and then say, well, it's not money well spent if I just send 20 bucks for some hay to the cows. Like, what? Go
yeah,
look at the cow in the eye and say, I'm sorry, I can't give you 20 bucks for some hay because I'd rather give it to some other cause that's going to have a better return on my investment. Don't always view charity as through the eyes of a corporate lens. Okay, yes, education is the best form of activism. Okay, there are other great forms of activism, but sometimes charity is just charity. Sometimes it's about helping out the less fortunate. And who's less fortunate than cows, pigs, chickens, and turkeys, goats and sheep, horses and donkeys that have been viewed as commodities and turned into sandwiches and shoes and entertainment and nothing but worthless beings? And they're not. They're
no,
more
absolutely.
important than humans. They're more important than humans, I say.
Now, Gary, we've been talking for almost 2 hours, so we'll wrap it up shortly. Not that I reckon we could just talk forever because I love the way you speak. So this is not me getting bored. And you know what? Normally I'm in bed an hour ago. I'm an early bedder, but I reckon I could talk for 10 hours with you. I just love
It's
hearing
true.
the way you speak.
We could
And
do
I
this
can,
again, by the way. We could do it again in a few months. And just so you
uh,
know, my record for speaking nonstop is about 8.5 hours. I had 2 students at Oakland University back in Michigan, my alma mater. After a lecture, they said, will you come to our house and tell us more? And we're going to stop and get some vegan food, whichever vegan food you recommend. Let us buy you dinner. I said, okay. So I went there. 8.5 hours later, it's got to be 3:34 in the morning. I said, okay, I have to go home now. I have to. They're like, no more. I said, you don't understand. There's no more. I literally gave you everything that I've learned. There's no more. But it was about 8.5 hours of nonstop preaching.
yeah. Well, the thing I find interesting is I can speak about this for probably not as long as you, but a long time as well. And it's a weird, interesting thing of like we can talk about it for so long, but ultimately it's a simple message. And if you were to summarize it, obviously, yeah, we can talk about all of the horrible things, but the message is really simple. If you were to kind of summarize it as the simplest, like it should be easy, I think, to understand. How would you simplify it to the point of like, guys, it's this easy. What is that message?
Do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. Everybody should understand the golden rule. If you're religious, it's in every single religion. If you're an atheist, you still live by that motto, that comment, that creed. Do unto others. Put yourself in the victim's position. If you wouldn't want to be treated this way, don't do it to somebody else.
Yeah. And I think it is really that simple. We all deserve freedom. We all deserve the right to our own body autonomy. I've heard you say it before, and I've been saying it for years, is everyone talks about consent, my body, my choice, and we talk about their body, my choice. And we're just violating all of our own beliefs, and like we're against, like, are we for slavery or for freedom? Are we for violence or for peace? And when we see animals as products, commodities, and resources, we are supporting slavery, violence, oppression, discrimination, all of these things. And yeah, that's just the way I see it. Whereas when I first went vegan, I was just like, oh, I'm not buying meat, egg, and dairy. I'm buying oppression, violence, slavery, discrimination. That's what I'm paying for. And this is not the world I want to live in. I want to live in a peaceful world, but I'm literally supporting and voting with, we think that we vote every 4 years, but we vote every single day. And when we buy products, not individuals, but we view them as products, we are literally saying, do it again. I support slavery. I support violence, which is just crazy that people are unable to see it this way. I've got
And by the
one
way,
question.
hold up. The
You go.
vote,
Yeah.
this is a vote that actually means something. Don't get me started on the voting bullshit with politicians. Don't act
Yep.
like your vote means anything. If voting did anything, they wouldn't let you do it. This vote matters. Vote with your
Mhm.
pocketbook. Let the companies know and the corporations know that, yeah, you don't want to pay for slavery, oppression, torture, and murder. This vote means something every time you eat, every time you buy a piece of clothing, every time you decide to send money to a charity, every time you go to a place of entertainment. This is a vote that matters.
Yeah. I have one question from a friend, which I have on my phone. I'm not sure. I don't know what this means, but the question was, Gary, will you perform your rap song, The Doctrine of Misinterpretation? I don't know what that means.
It's the Declaration of Misrepresentation. If so, in 1992, 4 years before I became vegan, I wanted to be a rapper. I did my whole childhood growing up. You can look this up online. Punch in my name and punch in on YouTube, Declaration of Misrepresentation. I was a pretty good rapper back in the day. The truth is, the Funky Bass team did my music. The Funky Bass team, Mark and Jeff Bass, did Eminem's music first. So they were deciding back then in the early 90s which white Detroit rapper to choose. They made the right choice. They went with Eminem. Trust me, they made the right choice. But I still got a little flow. I can tell by your etiquette, you delicate. Keep dancing around the subject. I'll connect a hit with a pirouette. Send you flying from Schenectady all the way to Connecticut. Have you connected it yet? When you lean over to get a hit, don't let it get out of control, because I better get all 3 rounds by leaps and bounds. I'm the subject, the noun, the verb, and the predicate. 2 bullets in my pocket and my check raising or hell raising, trail blazing, weed smoking, stargazing, seed eating, field grazing. So good with a straight razor, when I slice it, make it look like you killed yourself while you shaving. So there's still some flow left in me. I got to put together a vegan rap one day. I want to get together with Feldy, by the way. This motherfucker's
I
out
love
cold.
Fieldy.
I was just introduced to him recently, man. That guy's got flow.
He's
So
amazing, that guy.
yeah, I do have one line that I say, and Eminem's in it too. What is it? Hold on a second. Man, you was soft as feminine parts, but I'm like Eminem painting a portrait of Bruce Lee. That's martial arts. Used to give love to everybody, but that's partial hearts. Now it's the animals only. When I say go vegan, don't have a cow, man. That's only partially Bart's.
Legend. Gary, last thing I'd like to say, and then I'll leave you with a final statement. But I just want to plug, because I'm not sure how large this video might get to and what audience. But I would love people to please check out Sasha Farms. I will post the link in YouTube and Facebook, so please look at that link. I would also love people to watch Dominion or watch Earthlings, 2 amazing documentaries that run through the reality, the atrocities that humans are doing to animals. I would
Christspiracy
love
too.
Christspiracy. Please watch that.
Yeah.
I would love everyone to also please look at Farm Transparency Project. Chris Delforce and his team from Melbourne, Victoria have done. I don't know how this man has got the mental endurance that he's got. This guy has been into thousands of slaughterhouses and farms all around Australia, put himself through hell to witness what animals experience. He's looked at animals in the eyes as they're getting their throats cut, as they're dying in gas chambers. And this footage, photos and videos and virtual tours are on this website. So Dominion, Earthlings, Christspiracy, Farm Transparency Project, Sasha Farms. Is there anything else you'd like to give as a final word, Gary, before we wrap it up tonight?
Listen, if you're vegan and you're not active, become active. Okay, get active right now. And all the Gary vegans out there, I made a mistake. I was just converting people to veganism and not also saying that you needed to be an activist. So if you went vegan because of my speech, because of my words, please listen to my words now. Become active. Don't accept the lead role in a cage. Okay, get active. Do something right now. To in the meat, dairy, and egg eaters out there, watch my speech or watch Earthlings or Dominion. You have to see the truth. And if my speech or Earthlings and Dominion don't open your eyes, you need to get a fucking heart transplant because you're just a fucking dick and you're dead inside. Okay, one of those things should make you see the light. Don't be stubborn. Don't be defiant. Don't act like an 8-year-old brat that, oh, they're taking away my meat. Stop it already. We're taking away the right that you think you have to enslave, murder, oppress, and exploit somebody else. And that's a right I would gladly take away. I'd like to be a compassionate dictator, by the way. Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with mandating compassion. That dictatorship actually would be wonderful. So anyways, do that stuff. Oh, and check out my Instagram channel because I'm trying to blow up online. Real Gary Yourofsky. I just signed up to TikTok as well. Just signed up this week. So I'm going to be trying to blow up online. And man, send Joe Rogan and Sam Harris some kind of a note and tell them to get me on. By the way, in 2018, when I was retired in one of my worst moments and I was dead, I was in a coffin, Joe Rogan actually reached out to me and invited me on his show. And I'm probably the only person on the planet that turned him down. I said, no, I'm retired. I can't. I could not have even explained the things that I can explain right now like I did with you today. I was just in a horrible state. So I'm hoping Joe brings me back on. I'd love to talk with him. What I like about Rogan too is that he actually listens. Like there's people I wouldn't debate, Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly. They don't listen. Pierce Morgan, it'd be stupid to get on his show. But Joe Rogan, Sam Harris, at least they'll ask you a question and let you answer the question. So I believe I could make a case for Joe and for Sam and for some other people to become vegan. If you know another huge person with a platform that's not vegan that talks about animal rights once in a while, send them a note. Say you got to get Yourofsky on your show, man. You'll be in for a hell of a debate and a hell of a treat. So anyways, peace out, everybody. I appreciate all the time, Stefan, that you gave me today. I really enjoyed talking with you. And go vegan. Do it for the
It was
animals.
it was an honor to speak with you, Gary. Please, guys, if you enjoyed this interview, please share it. Please follow last one, Anonymous for the Voiceless. They're probably I believe, one of the most effective organizations to be active with. They are in almost every city around the world. So if you want to be active, if you want to learn the truth, if you want to spread the truth, please join A Cube of Truth Anonymous for the Voiceless. And please share this video, follow Gary, follow other amazing people, Paul Bashir, Oliver Luce. I'll post all of their links below. They're incredible outreaches. And thank you once again, Gary.
And if there's not an AV in your city, start one on top of it. But yes, everything you said, God bless AV right now. And Oliver's a fucking machine, man. I got to meet him in Cologne. He is a warrior. God damn, I love that guy. And he is one hell of an activist, man.
He's Superman. And as are you, as there's so many amazing people, especially Paul. And yeah, there's amazing people. But thank you again, Gary. I wish I could talk for 8.5 hours with you and drain everything out of you, but it's past my bedtime, and I hope you have a really good afternoon. And it was an absolute pleasure and honor to speak with you. So thank you, Gary, for everything.
All right, everybody. Abolition, liberation, freedom.
Thank you, Gary. Cheers. Yeah.